So, a funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer. If you don't know what I'm talking about, stay tuned to find out. And if you do know, stay tuned to find out why I loved that one scene.
Put it right now!
Okay, don't want any trouble.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Phillip J Coulson has become one of my favorite characters in the Marvel Universe. Now, I don't say Marvel Cinematic Universe because he's actually spent most of his time out of the cinemas and in the small screen on ABC's Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, this show never really got the love it deserved from Marvel. It was always on the verge of cancellation and just neglected by the studio. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just look up some of the drama behind the Inhumans movie, or television movies, or whatever that was. This show never got as much hype as the Netflix shows, and it never really had a place to do its own thing like The Runaways or even Cloak and Dagger. This was always somewhere in the middle, tied to the studio and the cinematic universe, but never really allowed to fully join the club. But somehow, the show managed to last 7 amazing seasons, and by the end of its run, Phillip J Coulson was the longest running character in the modern Marvel universe, outlasting the Godfather Tony Stark himself. But I want to rewind back a while before his character was fully fleshed out and his role was cemented in these stories. Back in Phase 1 of the MCU, Marvel produced a series of single scenes chronicling some everyday things that happened in between the big movies. Marvel one-shots, they were called. These were usually standalone moments that had no bearing on the MCU, and that's when a funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer. This was a Marvel one-shot scene that premiered back in 2001. Just before the first Thor movie. And when it did, it was one of Phil Coulson's first outings and definitely his first solo scene of significance in this period. In the previous 2 Iron Man movies, he had only a couple scenes of dialogue total and was only on screen for a handful of minutes combined. Up to this point so far, he's only been a government suit looking to push papers on other characters. Tony's never paid him any attention, and nothing about him thus far has given the audience any inkling as to any physical prowess that he may have. But all that changes in the scene where he's stuck in a gas station that's conveniently being robbed. And the way he chooses to insert himself into the situation and prevent the robbery is a stroke of pure genius. Where you might expect a shootout or Mexican standoff, he willingly surrenders his weapon to the assailants before taking them out. And what follows is a feat of incredible athleticism and training.
I also have this gun. You'll probably be needing that.
Put it down! Put it right now!
Okay, don't want any trouble.
And then, in just a few seconds, everything we think we know about his character is flipped on its head and then thrown out the window completely. The first and immediate thing we learn about him is that he can fight. Like, really fight. More than just your average shield training would have taught him. And it's not just what he does that's surprising, but the way in which he was able to do it. Underneath his calm and assuming demeanor, Phil Coulson is a secret badass. The other thing I love about the scene is it's the first time that we see any real personality from Coulson. Like I said earlier, his previous appearances have been straight business. But now in this scene, he's off the clock. He's not working, and he's just trying to decide on a late night snack. For the first few minutes, he's just another employee on the road between appointments. But when things go sideways, he suddenly comes to life. When he could have just stayed silent and stayed safe, he speaks up in such a nonchalant way that you honestly would never expect from his character, but has since become his defining trademark.
Who else is here? Who owns that car outside?
I do. But it's really more like a lease.
When he inserts himself into the situation, he strategically positions himself while verbally throwing the robbers off balance. He just moves everyone around like they were pieces on a chessboard, all while keeping a smile on his face.
Sorry for the mess.
And when all is said and done, he makes a joke to the clerk and tells her to take the credit. He doesn't want any recognition or acknowledgement. And while this may be partially due to him working for a secret spy organization, it's also really just who he is.
What should I tell the police?
Tell him those Tybo tapes really paid off.
And then he just keeps on going about his business like nothing happened. Because while being held at gunpoint may be a huge story for anyone like the clerk, for him, it's not even a footnote on his day off. He seems more relaxed and at ease in this high-stakes situation than we've ever seen him before. Like the press suits and bureaucracy are a bit stifling to him, and he's finally free of all that and is just being himself. Sure, he's good at the bureaucratic regiments and operations, but he's more at home outside of that rigid structure. And that's something that gets explored more during his show's run a few years later. I've seen all of the Marvel one-shots and they're all good, but this is definitely my favorite. It may not be the most significant in regards to the MCU, but it does do the most character building in the shortest amount of time. And I think it's the biggest reason we get the 7 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's only a few minutes long, but it does so much to endear the audience to this character enough to create a fan base large enough to keep this character around, no matter how many times he appears to die. Have you guys seen the Marvel one-shots? And if so, which was your favorite? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe while you're here. We've got new content coming out every week. But until next time, have a great day, and don't forget to watch a great movie. Bye.